Did you know that feedback, this seemingly small act of communication, is becoming a major flashpoint between Gen Z and their millennial bosses? This isn't just a matter of preference, it's a critical business issue. Research reveals a startling reality that should make every manager pause. 73% of Gen Z employees will quit their jobs if they don't receive regular feedback. This single statistic highlights the massive cost of inaction. The conflict is palpable. Gen Z vlogger, my boss hasn't given me any feedback in 3 months. Am I doing a good job? Am I about to get fired? The silence is killing me. Millennial manager, these youngsters need constant praise just to do their jobs. I don't have time for this level of hand-holding. So what's happening to the traditional culture of feedback? And more importantly, who needs to change the new generation demanding more, or the management struggling to provide it? Want to keep up with the 7 key trends these two generations are creating in the workplace? Watch now. And don't miss out on more insightful analysis. Hit that subscribe button to catch our latest episodes. Traditional versus modern feedback, the shifting landscape. The tension we're seeing today is the direct result of a collision between two vastly different workplace paradigms. For decades, the world of work ran on a predictable schedule. For Gen X and early millennials, performance management was defined by the periodic review, a formal, often bureaucratic ritual conducted semi-annually, or in many cases, just once a year. Feedback was overwhelmingly a one-way street flowing from the top down. The manager acted as judge and jury, evaluating past performance, often tying it directly to bonuses and promotions. For employees, this meant months of stored-up criticism could be unleashed all at once, leading to anxiety and unpleasant surprises. Millennials entered this environment and, despite their desire for more interaction, were forced to adapt. They learned that no news is good news, and that feedback was a scheduled event, not an ongoing dialogue. HR Director Millennial, when I started my career back in 2010, you only went to your boss if there was a problem. It was very issue-focused. Now our youngest employees constantly initiate conversations with a single pressing question, am I doing well? It's a complete reversal. She's right. Gen Z arrives with a completely different set of expectations shaped by a digital world of instant response. They don't just prefer a new model, they demand it. They expect continuous real-time feedback that functions as a collaborative dialogue focused on future growth, not a formal judgment of the past. The data reveals a stark feedback gap. A recent study found that while 60% of Gen Z employees want feedback weekly, or even more frequently, a mere 15% of all employees receive check-ins that often. This isn't just a gap, it's a chasm, and it's forcing companies to rethink everything they thought they knew about performance. The old model was about evaluation. The new model is about development. The old model was top-down. The new model is multi-directional. And this shift is being driven almost entirely by the psychological needs of the latest generation in the workforce. 2. Why Gen Z needs more feedback. Deconstructing the demand. To dismiss Gen Z's need for frequent feedback as mere neediness is to miss the profound societal forces that have shaped them. Their demand is a logical product of their environment. Generational psychologist, first and foremost, you have to understand the social media feedback loop. Gen Z is true digital natives. They've spent their entire formative years on platforms built on instantaneous reaction. Every post, every photo is met with immediate data, likes, shares, comments. In this framework, silence isn't neutral. The absence of feedback is in itself a form of negative feedback. When they complete a task at work and hear nothing, it feels like a post with zero engagement, a signal of failure or irrelevance. Their psychological profile amplifies this digital conditioning. Gen Z grew up amidst constant volatility, economic crises, social upheaval, and a 24/7 news cycle of instability. This has cultivated a deep-seated need for security and reassurance. Generational psychologist, my research makes a critical distinction. Whereas millennials often sought praise, Gen Z needs reassurance. For them, feedback is less about ego and more about anxiety management. A manager's silence is an information vacuum that their anxiety, conditioned by a world of uncertainty, quickly fills with worst-case scenarios. Feedback is the data they need to establish psychological safety. But it's not just about feeling safe. This generation has a powerful, pragmatic drive for self-improvement. They view their careers as a project to be optimized, and immediate feedback is the most efficient tool for upskilling and accelerating their growth. Gen Z employee. I prefer my boss to give feedback right away. If I make a bunch of small mistakes and only find out at the end of the year, how can I possibly fix them? It feels inefficient. I want to correct my course as I go. From their perspective, a lack of feedback isn't just emotionally unsettling. It's a direct obstacle to their performance and advancement. They're playing to win, and they need the real-time data to do it. 3. Challenges for millennial managers caught in the crossfire. While Gen Z is reshaping expectations, it's millennial managers who are on the front lines, often feeling overwhelmed and ill-equipped to meet these new demands. Their struggle isn't a sign of poor leadership, but a reflection of being caught between the world they were trained in and the one they now lead. Millennial manager, the sheer volume can be intense. I manage a team of 10, and at first it felt like a constant stream of, hey, is this okay? Or just wanted to check in messages. My day was completely fragmented. I was trained to be autonomous to figure things out on my own. My performance reviews were once a year. Now I'm expected to be a full-time coach, and frankly, I was never trained for that. This highlights a significant skill gap. Many millennials were promoted because they were excellent individual contributors, not because they had innate people leadership skills. They are often accidental managers, without a playbook for the coaching-intensive style Gen Z expects. Perhaps the most paralyzing challenge, however, is the fear of giving negative feedback. There's a pervasive stereotype that Gen Z is hypersensitive and will quit at the first sign of criticism. Manager Mr. A. I had a Gen Z employee who was underperforming. I'll be honest, I avoided the direct conversation for weeks because I was afraid he'd get offended and just quit. But my avoidance was worse. The rest of the team had to pick up his slack and morale plummeted. The whole team stagnated because I was afraid of one difficult conversation. This story reveals a fundamental misunderstanding. Many millennial managers believe a good boss trusts their team and gives them autonomy, the kind of hands-off leader they wish they'd had. But to a Gen Z employee, that trusting silence is often interpreted as neglectful absence. The millennial manager trying to be the good boss by offering freedom is accidentally perceived as the bad boss who is disengaged. 4. Changes underway. How forward-thinking companies are adapting. This generational friction isn't an unsolvable crisis. It's a powerful catalyst for innovation. Forward-thinking companies are actively redesigning their feedback cultures, and their success provides a blueprint for the future. Take Adobe. In 2012, they famously dismantled their traditional annual review process, which was costing an estimated 80,000 manager hours per year and fostering unhealthy internal competition. They replaced it with the check-in system, a model built on continuous informal conversations between managers and employees, focused on goals and development with no formal ratings. The impact was immediate. Adobe saw a 30% reduction in voluntary turnover in the first year alone, a tangible return on investment for prioritizing a healthier feedback culture. Startup CEO Millennial, we saw the same issues. Annual reviews felt like an autopsy. So we shifted to an OKR model with mandatory monthly one-on-one S. Initially, our managers were worried about the time commitment, but the results were phenomenal. Young employees felt heard, we caught problems early, and performance soared. Our internal data showed Gen Z turnover dropped by 20% in the first year. Even giants like Microsoft have transformed their approach. In 2018, after internal surveys revealed that only 7% of employees felt they consistently received feedback on how to improve, they partnered with the Neuroleadership Institute. Grounded in neuroscience, their new model shifted the paradigm from managers giving feedback to empowering employees to ask for it. This simple change transforms a potentially threatening event into a proactive, learning-oriented one. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with 80% of employees in the pilot program demanding an immediate company-wide rollout. These examples prove that while methods may vary, the principles are consistent: increase frequency, focus on development over evaluation, and empower employees in the conversation. 5. Learning two-way feedback. The 360-degree revolution. Perhaps the most radical shift is the rise of upward feedback. The old hierarchical model where feedback flowed exclusively from the top down is being challenged by a generation that expects a dialogue, not a monologue. An Adobe study found that a remarkable 74% of Gen Z workers feel comfortable giving feedback to their supervisors. This isn't insubordination. It's a consumer mindset applied to the workplace. Having grown up rating every experience online from Uber rides to restaurants, Gen Z views their manager's leadership as a service that contributes to their career, a service that can and should be reviewed. In a one-on-one, I told my manager that his instructions for a project were unclear and it was causing me a lot of stress. He was a little shocked at first, I think, but later he thanked me. He said he didn't realize how his communication style was coming across and that my feedback helped him become a better manager. Management expert. What we're seeing is the rise of a true 360-degree feedback culture where input flows up, down, and sideways. When done right, it makes the entire organization more agile and cohesive, but it's not without risks. For upward feedback to work, it must be built on a foundation of psychological safety. If employees fear retaliation or if managers aren't trained to receive criticism without becoming defensive, the entire practice can backfire and erode trust. Leaders have to model vulnerability and prove that all feedback is a gift. 6. Tips and methods. The modern feedback toolkit. Navigating this new landscape requires more than a shift in mindset. It requires a practical toolkit. One of the most effective frameworks for delivering clear, actionable feedback is the start/stop/continue model. Its simplicity is its power. It's structured into 3 parts. Start: what new action should the employee begin doing to improve? For example, I'd like you to start providing a summary after client calls. Stop: what counterproductive behaviors should cease, for instance? We need you to stop submitting reports without proofreading them first. Continue: what effective behaviors should be maintained, like? Your proactive communication on the Alpha project has been excellent. Please continue that. This method avoids ambiguity. While the classic sandwich method, praise, then criticism, then more praise, is well known, many now find it can feel manipulative or dilute the core message. Technology can also be a powerful low-effort ally. Many companies are successfully fostering positive reinforcement by creating dedicated Slack channels like #kudos, where colleagues can publicly celebrate each other's wins. But the responsibility isn't just on managers. Gen Z employees can also learn to receive criticism more constructively. The key is to separate the work from the self. Feedback on a task is not a judgment of your worth. Listen actively without reacting immediately. And if feedback is vague, ask clarifying questions like, "Can you give me an example of what you mean?" This transforms criticism into a concrete roadmap for improvement. 7. Conclusion: building a future-ready feedback culture. The generational friction over feedback is not a crisis to be managed, but a profound opportunity. Gen Z's expectations are forcing organizations to shed antiquated practices and build a more transparent, agile, and human-centric workplace culture. This evolution, co-authored by Gen Z and their millennial managers, is redefining leadership for a new era. The benefits are immense. Employees have a clear path to grow, managers gain real-time insight into their teams, and the entire organization becomes more resilient. The path forward requires 2 things: upskilling a generation of managers in the art of coaching and guiding a generation of employees on how to receive criticism with resilience. And the future may be even more integrated. The rise of AI-driven performance management promises to take this even further, with systems that can provide personalized real-time feedback, predict skill gaps, and even help reduce bias in evaluations. This isn't science fiction. It's the next frontier of making work better for everyone. The ultimate vision is a workplace where feedback isn't a dreaded annual event, but a positive, productive, and daily part of the professional fabric, a future that is not only possible but essential for thriving in the years to come. So what about you? How do you prefer to receive feedback? Weekly in-person check-ins, or do you prefer periodic emails? Comment below to share your thoughts. And if you want your boss to praise and critique you every week, go ahead and gently tag them in this video. If you found this helpful, please like and subscribe to GenShift, and don't miss our next episode.